Welcome to Significance Breeds Success. My name is Daniel Puder. Super excited today. I have Gary Lipsky on. We're gonna rock and roll. Just flew in, spent some time with me in LA. How you doing, bro?
Good to be here.
Awesome. So it's pretty awesome. I was on your podcast. I appreciate you. The two things that stand out to me is you built an after-school program with 9,000 students in LA, and then sold it. That's pretty awesome. And then you went into the you specialize in investing with B-class value add-on multifamily opportunities.
Yep.
And I think the thing that really stands out is you're involved in recession-resistant real estate.
Yep.
So that's difficult right there, right? I mean, like, obviously Miami is like blown up through the roof. And then San Francisco, I just went there and it's like, like nobody's utilizing, the commercial space. And then nobody was there on Friday. I was shocked. I was like, hold on, I'm in the middle of San Francisco and there's zero traffic.
Yeah, they're gonna have to change those use of the buildings to either multifamily or some kind of homeless housing, or just repurpose those properties eventually.
So I just heard about that on the All In podcast. I was listening and they were saying the same thing, which now you're the second genius I've heard that from. But the challenge is, and I know commercial property, it's not set up sometimes with whether water or sewer or multiple things. So it could be a hard changeover cost.
Absolutely. We actually had one project in Phoenix where it was a garden office space. So one level that we got 44 units at the existing building, and we built 60 new units on that property. That's a fairly easy property, but I have some friends that do it in some other places where they're getting a lot of grant money because it's historical, it's in an opportunity zone, they're getting federal money, they're getting local money to build these old adaptive reuse, these old office space into multifamily.
And it's federal cash that's helping support the build out.
So they're spending maybe 40 cents on the dollar versus that whole kit and caboodle. So it makes it, that's the only way to make it work for most of the time.
And that's only if city, because we've been doing zoning stuff, part of schools, right? So that's only if the city or the county will go for it too, for the building being changed over.
Right.
I mean, you got traffic, you have cars, you have parking lots, you have all these other so many factors.
It makes sense because if they're not getting any tax money, they might as well support local businesses and help them convert something where they can get tax money and help the people in the community.
That's pretty crazy. So Class B, tell me what you guys are up to with multifamily opportunities.
So it's workforce housing. They don't build Class B. They want to build, real nice Class A luxury apartment buildings, but that's not the backbone of America. The backbone of America needs apartment buildings, and they're not building any more of them. So we'll come in 1970s, 1980s product, renovate the property, add amenities, and now the resident feels very proud to live there because it looks almost as nice as a luxury apartment building down the road. It's got the Amazon package lockers, nice landscaping, cool brand, and so it's much more affordable for them. But it's a superior product than what they're used to. So we're improving communities. We create win-win scenarios for our investors and for our residents.
That's pretty awesome. So you're raising money here at BizNow for more of those?
Yeah. We're always raising money to buy new communities, but we're going to a conference in the next few days to network and always looking for new partners.
That's awesome. So how much are you looking to raise in 23, 24?
Yeah, so right now we are raising on a fund. It's $35 to $50 million. Not easy to raise right now because people have capital calls or they're concerned about the economy, but it's actually a great time to invest. It's when most are fearful is the best time to get your deals. When everyone is investing, that's when the prices skyrocket. So I know people are scared right now, but real estate is a great hedge against inflation. It's a necessity. Everyone needs a roof over their head. It's a fixed asset. If someone tweets, my property doesn't go down 20% like it would in the stock market, So it's just, I love the control of real estate, the probabilities of what when I look at a trailing 12, the financials, I can pretty much pinpoint where I could take this property to,
That's pretty cool. So I find that a lot of people through what's going on right now are not buying. Like I can see the buying curve stop, right? A lot of people have, I've seen stats. I don't know how accurate they are, obviously, because there's so many going on. More people have claimed bankruptcy over the last 3 quarters. It's been increasing. And they're saying that 4 out of 10 people are going to get their cars repoed next year.
Wow.
In America. So I don't know if it's going to really happen. Obviously, I didn't even think we would get this far without a major recession because they kept flooding the market with cash. So I was like, wow, I think we're like 2 years past what we just hit 1.1 trillion in credit card debt for people in America. We have over $1 trillion of college debt. So like so much debt and we're still going, it's crazy to me.
And I think the government's going to start printing more money next year. They have trillions of debt that's coming due. They don't want to pay the 6, 7, 8%. They want to be paying what they used to be paying. You're going into an election year. Something's going to break. So there's so much conflicting data, and there is a lot of chaos in the financial markets. But I think second quarter 2024, you'll see rates start coming down. There'll be a little bit more steadiness in what's happening.
Interesting. So you started a nonprofit. Was it nonprofit or for-profit, the ARC you sold?
ARC was a for-profit in a nonprofit world, but we also started a nonprofit called Core Educational Services as well.
Okay, so let me ask you about the after-school program, the for-profit. You guys built this out. Obviously, I've seen after-school programs, Boys and Girls Club, Big Brother, Big Sister. I think that's more of a mentorship program. The PAL program, all these different programs. How did you build one as a for-profit in a nonprofit world and become that successful? Because it's very hard to build 9,000 kids into an after-school program.
Absolutely. It was solving problems and just being very creative. So we were working with school districts, charter schools, trying to figure out what were their pain points and solving those problems. A lot of the programs, arts and music and, dance, all got cut. So we're adding these things back in, and we kind of rode a wave of grants in California. California invests more in their after-school programs than I think all the other states combined. So we were working with elementary, middle, and high school students. We got recognized by an organization that's one of the best in the country, and it just grew very slowly. Like when I started out, I was just making enough money to go the next year, then the next year, then the next year, and it just evolved into this powerhouse, and we also brought a team building element. So we built all these gadgets to teach kids about team building, life skills. We had portable rock walls where we would take it to the schools so kids can have that kind of outdoor experience in the inner city. And then we also took kids camping and real rock climbing and mountain biking, kayaks. We ended up buying all this equipment over the years.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So how'd you get into the kid world?
So it's funny. When I was in high school, I would go to the Y and work out. And one of the days I was there, a woman that ran the programming said, "My teacher didn't show up. Can you teach sports to kids?" And we're like, "You're going to pay us?" She's like, "Yeah." We're like, "Sure, why not?" And we started out with 10 kids, and it was a blast. We would play hockey on the basketball court. Then we taught basketball, and then before you know it, by this was in the fall. By the spring, she had me teaching like 5 classes, and they're all booked. And I loved it. The kids loved it, and I went off to college, and that was it. But I was in the film business in my 20s. I co-produced 3 low-budget independent films. And I was writing a script with a buddy of mine, and a kid was on the way. And so I'm like, man, I need to get like a real job here going. I need to get, paid. And he introduced me to a school. They said I needed a lifeguard. I said, I've got a lifeguard for you. And I hired a lifeguard on Craigslist. And that was the beginning of this company. Who knew what it was going to be? But, we just started working with schools and, solving problems, and one school led to another school. We were working with Parks and Recs, and hey, can you do this? I'm like, yeah, let's figure it out. And they loved what we were doing. Obviously, I had great people that were working with me to make it happen, and we were changing lives for thousands and thousands of kids.
How many staff did you have at the end?
So we had about 700 employees and about 700 independent contractors. So it's an HR nightmare. You're constantly trying to hire good people. And for a lot of times it was their first job, they're not, because they're not, we're not getting a lot of money for this work.
Yeah.
So, we're constantly training them up and either creating like full-time jobs for them, or we know that's kind of like a 3-year cycle max. They're going to either move up or move out. And we're just constantly trying to work with colleges to get good people in.
So Jeff Bezos said once, and it was very interesting to me, on building like our company, because we have 117 plus full-time plus consultants and some other people, right? Contractors. And it's interesting because he said from 0 to 30 is one type of manager. It's like the entrepreneur. And then from 30 to 100 is another, and then 100 to 1,000, and then 1,000 plus. So you hit 1,000 plus, right, with everybody. How did you have to redefine or relearn different processes, or what shifts did you do to be able to go through all of those cycles?
Absolutely. I had a business partner, and we had to make a conscious effort, because it was very family run. Like the first couple of years, I had the company party at my house, and then it was his house, and then it was at a lobby of a hotel, and then it was like, oh my God, like this is like getting huge now. It's like 200 people coming to this party, and it was a big thing. But we joined a group called Vistage. There's other groups out there that kind of helped us think of it as a business. And I was slow to it as far as hiring good people, because I was doing everything, running programs, doing the accounting, doing payroll, doing way too much. So once I kind of changed my mind, and same with my business partner, hiring good people to help, it was fantastic, because I literally had 4 reports too. If those 4 reports did a great job, then the company's doing great. Now underneath them, they had, let's say 7 reports, and it just became that, pyramid,
Yeah. So did your partner, was he involved as much in the business, or what did he do a part of you guys building?
Yeah, we had different skill sets, which is great to really growing the company. So I really ran the operations, the financials, and he was the programmer. He was a former teacher, worked with at-risk students. His parents were teachers and worked with at-risk students. They built all these kinds of team building equipment, and so I kind of rode his strengths and he rode my strengths.
That's awesome. So I find in business, because I figured this out through my dad. He was a small business owner, but he was the chemist, and then he went to school for an MBA. So he learned the business, became the president, but he wasn't the manager. So he was great at chemistry. He was okay. He was good at business, and he was okay at management. And he only had 30 employees. But it's interesting because we went past 30 our third year, and I'm like, holy smokes! I get to learn a different skill set, or I get to like bring other people in that are smarter than me, and have them run their departments, and get to understand enough to understand, to make different calls.
And that was the impetus of when I got to sell it, because I had built up a really good team, and they didn't really need me. And I was ready for my next challenge, and felt good that I could leave this in good hands, because we were doing incredible work, but I could never leave it unless I trusted them to continue this, the work that we were doing.
How long did it take you to build that?
It probably took close to 15 years. Because we just started very small, but every year we made more money than the year before. We kept growing 30% every year, but it took time. And there were many years where I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be doing this a year from now, quite honestly.
How old were you when you started?
So I started when I was 31.
Okay.
And sold it when I was 45, and I was ready for that next challenge, because I didn't want it to be my forever. I was ready to make another chapter in my life,
Yeah. So then you have your nonprofit, CORE,
Yeah.
Education Services. How are you involved with that still, are you? And why did you start that and a for-profit?
So we started that, I think, in 2006, and we wanted an opportunity to be able to get grants directly, because as a for-profit, we couldn't. We would partner with other organizations. So through that, we ran a number of great programs. We partnered with the Los Angeles Lakers, State Farm, some food equity programs as well. So, but we were kind of like in no man's land because we were like 75,000 a year. We ran it for 15 good years, but eventually we had to either grow significantly or it just wasn't enough to sustain. Unfortunately, the nonprofits are really, really hard.
I tell people when they want to do good, I'm like, start a for-profit. Like, it's great. I did it. I've done it. I have a nonprofit. I've had it since 2010. But I'm like, this is insane to rely on grants to run a business.
Yep.
I believe it has to be on contracts. Grants for growth or for exploration, but it has to be on contracts and in a budget, a line item budget of the organization. So if you do it with school district, it's got to be a line item budget. It can't like you service 100 or you service 1,000. It can be unlimited, but you have to get paid consistently on time without saying, oh yeah, I'll get it for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years and then see you later.
And that just shows you that my nonprofit and the for-profit, the for-profit, we were able to work with 9,000 kids daily and have a much, much bigger impact.
Huge. It's very interesting. So where'd you grow up? Did you grow up with both your parents? Did you brothers and sisters? Like, and I'd love to hear that. And then I'd love to pick your brain about because I find that where we grow up, or at least I've gotten my experience from me being in special ed as a kid and labeled learning disabled and with a younger brother and, in Cupertino, California, which is kind of bougie now. But back then it was like nothing special, right? Like it was crops, like we had peach trees or whatever it was throughout the whole entire valley, has now changed to be one of the most expensive zip codes in the world. So yeah, I'd love to know, how did you define who you were?
Yeah. So I grew up in North Jersey. My dad was a CPA. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Middle child. So middle child tend to be entrepreneur. You're kind of, my brother was kind of babied. My sister, there was a lot more roles. And for me, there's all right, well, we'll see you when it gets dark, whatever.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I always had that kind of entrepreneurial bug. So growing up during the winter, I'd shovel driveways to get paid and auto detail cars. I went to Boston University and studied business, and we started a restaurant delivery service way before the DoorDash and the Postmates. Little did we know what it could be, but this was, this is 30 years ago. That we were running this thing, and never had the vision, but I was always wanted to run things on my own. Never really worked for anyone else.
The app would have been called Gary instead of Uber.
Exactly. Maybe part was a chip, part was hey, I had done some work for others and it was just mindless. I want to be where the action is. I want to control. I want to have that creative side and the business side. So, just always had that kind of entrepreneurial spirit. And I know, my dad, he would, work in the city of Manhattan. So it was an hour and a half each way. And he was a hard worker, worked, 6 days a week. They gave me everything I needed, and just kind of had that workman's mentality of get your hands dirty, and if you love what you're doing, you're passionate about what you're doing, it's not really work, because I work a ton of hours now, but I love what I'm doing. I'm changing people's lives in the previous businesses as well, so that's the only way I can live.
What were the biggest challenges growing up? Did you have any challenges? Board in school,
middle, upper class, homogeneous. It wasn't that, I was blessed, I had no complaints. Parents gave me everything that I needed. I wasn't one to want for a lot, but they gave me what I needed. So I didn't have any real major challenges.
Boston University, how was that experience? Because back then it's probably one way. Today it's a little bit different.
Yeah, city school, not much of a campus, but I wanted to have a lot more culture. Everyone kind of picks, do they want to be in the suburbs or a big football school? I wanted that kind of feel of a small city because it was very easy to get around. I can walk around the whole city. just has that Northeast kind of, culture. No, I mean, growing up in the Northeast too, you have kind of like a little toughness to you, just because of the weather.
Because it's cold.
Yeah, yeah.
I did a walking tour, by the way, in Boston.
Yeah.
It was 4 hours walking tour with my 3-year-old, holding my 3-year-old. Well, he was like 2, 1.5 at the time. Fantastic. Yeah. Like, did all the history stuff. It was really cool.
Nice. But yeah, I've got friends from actually that live not too far from here that I went to college with. That every time I'm in town or they're in town in LA, we always get together and hang out, and we do guys trips once a year, every 2 years. So
nice.
It was a great experience to be on my own, learn about business, and grow.
What was your degree?
Bachelor of Science in Business Administration.
Okay, nice. So what do you think the value of education is today, like in business, right? Like people can start a business when they're, I mean, you and me probably see, there's these 2 kids on YouTube. They're making more money than and they're not even 12 yet, right? Or whatever. Like, it's insane. So what's your thought on, is college necessary for business? Is an MBA necessary for business? Elon's talked about it multiple times. He's like, I would rather, hire somebody that knows what they're doing versus somebody that just has a degree that doesn't know what they're doing conceptually, right? So what's your thought? Where's business going to go in the future?
Yeah, I fully agree. College is just way too expensive. My daughter goes to Northeastern now, and what I like about it is the co-op program. So she gets 2 semesters to work for someone else and kind of figure it out. But everyone can do their own path. An MBA, they're very book smart, but they're not, real world smart sometimes. Not for everyone, but I like that real world experience. Someone that knows how to communicate to others and solve problems. You don't need that college experience to learn these skills. These are just life skills that can help anyone, that as long as they have a growth mindset, you can really accomplish anything. So college, it can be important, but you don't need to go to that $70,000 school, that $80,000 school. You can go to community college. Some of the schools, you can go there for 2 years and then automatically get into like a UCLA or USC or whatever. Or there's so many good schools. It's really what you put into it and build that network and building those skill sets, than having to pay for being the best college or whatever you consider what that is, and the MBA as well. You may need, if you're going to be a doctor, the graduate school and whatnot, but to be really good in business, now you need that creativity. You need that ability to work hard and work well with others.
I've seen schools now do an entrepreneurship degree in business, but they never even start a business as part of the entrepreneurship degree. And I'm thinking to myself, you just spent $100,000 or committed to it, right? And you haven't even started a business. But if you were just to go out and start a business, or if you could start a business in school, that'd even be better, because then you're actually doing something to understand it. Or when I taught at a college, they didn't even have, the seniors or the juniors didn't even have LinkedIn accounts. So all of our kids in our high schools, before you graduate, you have to have a LinkedIn account. But it's insane to me. I'm like, hold on a second. Why? That's a basic, at least from my opinion, one of the basic necessities in business if you want to be successful.
Yeah. You got to fail a number of times, get punched in the face and figure it out, because that's what life is. Nothing goes perfectly. And so being an entrepreneur will teach you those things. And okay, plan A didn't work, plan B didn't work, plan C didn't work. Okay, I don't care if I get to Z or ZZ on my plans. I've got to keep finding ways to make it work. And that's even now these days. I get plenty of no's every single friggin' day, but got to keep going on, and it is what it is. So, okay, so first of all, I like this. You said punch in the face. So I've really got punched in the face as a kid, right? Not as a kid, but more as a 20s, in my 20s. So what does that mean as an entrepreneur? Because I know what it means to me, but can you explain that to people? Because I think a lot of people go, oh, I'm going to go score big bucks and I'm going to be rich because I'm an entrepreneur. And I'm like, yeah, just wait till you get like the employment tax. You have to pay another, 12%. You have to pay this. You have to pay that. You have to pay, your place, you have to pay for insurance. Your place gets water in here and we have computers up here. You then have to, be able to take care of the amount of time and energy
it's crazy that I even wanted to be an entrepreneur, but what would you recommend? Because how many times do you have to get no's and get punched in the face to be successful?
I think it's an innate ability. Like it's not, it doesn't take you 100 times to be it could be one time, but it's having the will to get up each time. So if you have that will, then it might only take you one time. But trust me, I've been punched in the face many more times than that. But that's what makes it interesting and makes me want to keep doing it. Like there's always going to be challenges, and I want to do hard things because then otherwise I get fat and lazy and that's I like challenges.
That's awesome. Do you go to Opal or Family Office Club a lot and surround yourself with investors? And what events have you gone to that you think make yourself get in the right rooms with the right people? Because I think a lot of people out there that are starting companies, they're like, well, how do I even start? Well, first you go to Sunbiz or you go get an LLC, and then you define what you want. You build a business plan, do some forecast or profit and loss statements. That's the simple part. Yeah. The hard part is then to go to an Opal and drop $1,000 or a Family Office Club and drop 8-10 grand on a membership and show up in a suit and go pitch 500 people, as many as you can, and get 499 no's and one yes, and you're like, yes, I did it.
Right.
But so what would you recommend of how to get in the right rooms? Definitely utilizing, these investment, organizations.
Yeah, you got to invest in yourself. And it might be, so the other day, I paid for a $2,500 dinner to hang out with David Meltzer, Joe Dispenza. There was a couple other leaders, but I was like, heck, there's 50 people that could be potential investors. I have a relationship with David Meltzer. Joe Dispenza is great to meet. So like, I'm going to spend that money. And I've done it time and time again where I'm investing in myself to be with like-minded individuals. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it does, but you got to be in it to win it. And being an entrepreneur is a lonely world. A lot of people, you're by yourself. You can't share the struggles and sometimes the wins with your employees. And so you've got to find other people that are going through the same struggles. And usually it is the same struggles. Usually it's always the same thing. It's people, people are the ones that you're struggling with, whether it's staff or maybe it's your partner, your wife, husband, whatever it is, it's people problems. But being in different entrepreneurial groups, there's YPO, there's Visage, there's so many different groups. I highly recommend finding your tribe, and not just doing one group. Do a couple different groups.
Which ones are you part of, or what do you spend most of your time?
So I joined GoBundance recently in February, and so it's less a business group, but there's like 6 pillars: is extreme accountability, health, giving back, authentic relationships, horizontal income. So it's really a well-rounded individual that they're going for, which I love. Mm-hmm. It's not just strictly business, but that's a great one. I was a part of Visage for many years. That's strictly business. I have friends that are in EO or YPO, and those were highly recommended. And then, raising capital, there's, a lot of different groups like IMN. I'm speaking at the conference in Phoenix on Monday on multifamily. But there's, for whatever trade you're in, there's always organizations as well. And I would always recommend entrepreneurs to get involved, go to these different events, because you never know where your next partner is, your next investor is. You're going to learn something. Even just at these conferences, it allows me time to think about my business. So I'm focusing on my business versus being in my business, and just the creativity flows just being at these events and inspiring to hear people like you talk, or the last conference I was at on Saturday, I spoke at a conference, and Hal Elrod spoke. He did the Miracle Morning, and he was just a fantastic speaker. So just the ideas start flowing and pushing yourself to be like, wow, if he can do it, man, I gotta, I can go to, there's more levels,
So you said working on the business versus in the business.
Yeah.
So so my last 2 years with my partners, I told them, you guys either get to work on the business or in the business long term. So the people that work on the business will tell you what to do, or if you want to like put the right management teams in place, then you can work in the business. And that's my goal. So it's been a huge blessing because they run ops on a day-to-day. I step in if there's major issues. And I'm working on the business like 95% of the time, which has been huge because I get to go to some of these conferences. I'm speaking at the Family Office Club in December in Fort Lauderdale on a panel with a bunch of pro athletes that are investors. So it's interesting to redefine myself from the pro athlete side, and that helps to be able to get and now say I'm an investor, I'm a partner, we have a business that's a good sized business. What would you recommend, and why do you continue to speak at events? And is it because you get to build a brand and people start coming to you versus you going to people, or like what's a big reason?
Yeah, it's one, sharing my knowledge, and it's also getting in the room, because now everyone on that panel is someone that has accomplished a lot, and so whether I know them or not, I'm developing relationships with them. I'm developing relationships with the organizers of the conference. And then as soon as I finish speaking, then people that like what I have to say come to me and say, hey, how do I get involved, or this or that? And so it really allows me to leverage other people's platforms, which is really big. That's helped me grow, and find the people that will that resonate and help get us to the next level and help others.
So when you build these people, you said you like, I think it was Visage.
Yeah, Visage.
So I've talked to people in EO, YPO. It's very interesting. A couple of my buddies are in those. So I'll check that out. I appreciate that. With the holistic kind of like multi-thing versus just a business organization, what do you find, or how do you find the right people to build the culture you want? And then how do you, with outside the business, and then how do you bring that inside the business so that you can build the culture you want inside? Because I think there's two different things as like an entrepreneur or business owner. You can go find and hang out with those people, but it doesn't mean in the business are those types of people. And our organization, we have some clear, frameworks and ways to win and everything else. That we had a meeting last week, and it was around culture, and it was around having clarity, going to the source if there's an issue, like solving problems and building an environment that we all want to have fun. And how do we do that? And so how have you done that in the past to build that culture piece?
Well, I think is first you have to write it down and understand what are those core values for yourself. And then, when you're interviewing people, ask them what their core values, do they match? Maybe have them take a personality test, which we have them do. But you want like-minded individuals. Now, I don't want them to think exactly like me. I want different cultures. I want different backgrounds, because they're going to bring something that I'm not going to think of or see. So I want their different viewpoints. But the core values, what they stand for as far as ethically and working hard and that growth mindset are super, super important. One of our core values is Kaizen, which is constant improvement. And so anytime that someone joins our organization, that's an opportunity for us to grow and learn from from their experiences. I don't want them copying everything that I've done or just following every system that we have, because he's got a different viewpoint. I want to hear, his viewpoint of, should we be doing this differently, or how can we do it better? That's an opportunity for us.
That's really cool. So when you were growing your first business, how much have you learned from then? Like, what was your philosophy back then versus, obviously I just heard what it is today, but how did you really define those? Were they mentors? Was it going to conferences, obviously, and or podcasts, or how did you start to learn that? And maybe what was the biggest outside influence that somebody could go and listen to their content today?
Yeah, you kind of, back then there wasn't the podcasts or as many books on this stuff. So, there were many things that I struggled. I think communication, I struggled on letting people know exactly why we're doing what we're doing, because versus just saying we're going to do this, and people need to know why we're doing it. And so that took me a long time to learn. Really focusing on how can I improve. I'm big on like the self-help, podcasts or whatever. I'm always looking for different ideas, and that's really helped me grow. But, I've gotten so much better from when I started, because of the lessons I learned, and how can I improve. I look back, trying to figure out, okay, well, what could I have done differently? That person's upset, or this didn't go right. And so, geez, I've got to take that responsibility and figure out what I could have done better. And there's, I'm still learning, and I'll never stop learning. Nothing, I never do it perfectly, but I always want to strive to keep getting better.
That ties into like management style. So, communication, getting people to understand the why. Have you learned, so one of my partners loves to micromanage. Fantastic. Like he loves, he gets his 8:00 meeting every day with his whole team. Awesome. It works for him. My style is the exact opposite. I like to set weekly goals. I like to know what you're up to throughout the week, but I don't have to micromanage you. And if you don't hit your goals, and I know that, throughout time I can see a lot and people see a lot, then you can't be on my team, right? So how do you define your management style? Like, are there 2 or 3 things that you do on a consistent basis? And it probably defines on how you hire people too, and how you place them.
Yeah, I think I've gotten a lot better at this over time, because I want each job to have like a mission statement, and for them to understand, like, what does success look like for me, and have them be able to communicate that. And if they can communicate it, they know where their target is. Because if they don't know where their target is, how can they be successful? So really, identifying a few KPIs that they know that they need to hit, and then I'll view that as like, okay, you're doing fantastic. So that's something that we strive for. Onboarding takes a lot more time, and I'm far from perfected that, but like setting someone up for success, making sure, they're not, just throw everything at them and say, figure it out. They need to know how to get from point A to point B to point C. You've got to, back in the day, you would do like a yearly check-in. I'm like, kids these days, they don't need want that. They need that, on a weekly basis. Are they doing good, or are they doing bad? If they're not hitting the mark, then communicate that and say, hey, this is what I was really looking for, and that constant feedback cycle will greatly improve the learning curve for someone that's working for you, and they'll be much more appreciative. So you give them a chance for success, and if they don't hit their mark, then you got to have a conversation, and if they're still not hitting their mark, then that person's not a good fit.
What's your why in life?
To make the world a better place. I want to contribute in a lot of different ways. I want to motivate people. I want to provide them with an opportunity to grow their wealth, and I want to make sure, I want to give back, and I want to help inspire other people to give back too, because a lot of people that are successful don't. It was never part of their thinking, and so I want to make sure that they're helping others as well.
That's awesome. I like it. What's your biggest challenge at the stage you're at in your career?
I guess for me personally, my next big growth is taking more vacation time. I work a lot, but I love what I do, and I still, I play a lot of beach volleyball. I get my workouts in and whatnot, but I want to do a lot more traveling, and not feel as rushed at times. So I have a goal, like 20 vacation days in 2024, which is, for a lot of people that's like nothing, but for me that would be like probably more than 2 times than I've ever done.
That sounds about right for me too. Yeah. So it's interesting. So I'm at the point where I can maybe do an 2-hour call every other day or something like that while I'm on vacation, because obviously projects get to keep going, right? And I'm not where I could step away, and I'm 99% sure for a month the place would run well. Have you defined where you want to go or how you want to spend that? Do you want to spend it on a beach? Do you want to spend it playing beach volleyball? Do you want to go to Alaska and go fishing? Like, where do you want to go with that?
So my vacations typically are very active. Like December break, I took my 2 daughters and my girlfriend. We went to Spain and Portugal. So we just probably walk 8 miles a day and just discovering the city. So we like to be on our feet and just explore, get into different neighborhoods and just figure it out and find cool places to eat and whatnot. So just exploring.
Lisbon?
Lisbon.
So we were in Lisbon.
Yeah, yeah.
It was beautiful this last year.
Yep.
It was December, a little chilly.
Yeah. But the weather actually wasn't that bad. We barely wore like winter coats the whole time. It was pretty good. So, we had an amazing time, and just keep exploring the world and experience other cultures. So, and I don't mind sitting on the beach for like a day, but then I need to explore other cultures and stuff.
So where are you going to go next? What's the plan?
So we're thinking about maybe New Zealand, and I mean just awesome hiking and exploring. So that's on my bucket list. Certainly, safaris on my bucket list as well. So we'll see what we do maybe over Christmas break.
Come do a safari with me.
Yeah.
In South Africa. I know the king of the Zulu tribe.
That's awesome.
And we'll probably do a school down there. It won't be this year because he's fighting for his kingship. His brothers, they've killed a couple of his friends. Crazy. And they're trying to take him out because he just became king. So once everything's smooth over and there's no more violence, then you and I that would be super fun.
That would be awesome.
Last question. What is one thing that you don't have today that if you had, you could make the world a better place faster? And this is for everybody to listen to, right? Somebody might say, hey, I have that resource, or I have whatever that is.
Right.
I just find that a lot of time we don't know some people define it, but some people are like, I have no clue. Like, I got to figure that out. And some people are like, this is the one thing.
Right. I mean, money always helps. More capital to do some of these things. That always helps. But I think I could be more creative, and I need to think about that because, just having people that want to volunteer their time or whatnot to help, because it's not always about money. It's, it's people willing to do the work, to help others. So, but that's an interesting question. So I got to think deeper on that.
Where can people go find you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, go to breakofdaycapital.com. We have investor resources. There's a link to our podcast. They can sign up for our newsletter, find out about deals. So that's the number one place to find me.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you, man.
Enjoy Miami.
Yeah.
The best city there is in the country. Awesome. You guys, thank you for checking out Significance Breeds Success. Every single month, we're adding new podcasts on here with people that influence and impact lives. So it's been amazing. Have a blessed day. And I know you will have learned something from Gary.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.